Imagine Sarah staring at an empty cradle, knowing God promised a son, and years later it's still silent. Have you ever noticed something? Some of the hardest parts of faith aren't the moments when God speaks, they're the days after, the days when the promise is still true, but nothing looks different. When the lights are off, but the engine is still running. When your body is in bed, you may even be sleeping, but your mind is still on duty. Not because you don't trust God, but because you've been carrying too much for too long. And here's what I'm learning. God's correction never comes with shame, only with truth, love, and clarity. He doesn't expose you to crush you. He shows you what you're holding so you can finally put it down. And one of the clearest places we notice what we're holding is rest, because sleep is where you can't fake control. You can be strong all day, you can worship all day. You can smile and serve and encourage and show up. And then night comes, and your mind starts pacing, and your heart starts bracing, and you realize something. Somewhere along the way, faith started multitasking, praying and planning, believing and bracing, surrendering and staying on standby. Like trust is real, but there's still a quiet grip on the situation, just in case. So let's slow down, because the Bible gives us a story that shows this in real life, not in theory, not as a quote, but as a whole journey. Abraham and Sarah, the promise of Isaac. This is not a quick testimony. This is a long wait, and it teaches us what happens when waiting gets heavy and we start acting like we're the backup plan. God speaks to Abraham. He promises him a future, a family, descendants, a legacy. God doesn't tease him. He doesn't hint. He promises. And Abraham believes. But then time passes. Not hours, not weeks, years. The kind of time that stretches hope. The kind of time that makes you wonder if you heard God right. And this is where strong believers get tested. Because the test isn't, do you believe God is real? The test is, can you trust God when your circumstances keep disagreeing? And when you're in that kind of gap, your faith can stay sincere and still feel strained. Because you're not only waiting for Isaac, you're waiting for the promise to feel safe again. Now, here's what happens. Sarah gets tired. And I don't mean tired like sleepy. I mean tired like tired of hoping, tired of trying not to be disappointed, tired of watching the calendar move while the promise stays still. And she reaches for something understandable, a solution, a workaround, a plan. Not because she doesn't respect God, but because she's trying to survive the wait. So she tells Abraham to go to Hagar, and Abraham agrees, and Ishmael is born. And that moment is the moment the backup plan appears. It's the moment waiting shifts from trust to management, from God will do it to we should probably help him. And I need to say this carefully. This wasn't just impatience, this was pressure, this was pain. This was a human attempt to make the ache stop. But here's what we learn. The backup plan never comes alone. It comes with complication. It comes with strain. It comes with fallout. Because when we try to produce what only God can promise, we don't just add effort, we add weight. And that weight is what keeps the engine running, because now you're not only waiting, now you're managing, now you're carrying, and it becomes harder to rest, not because you don't love God, but because you've quietly taken a position you were never meant to hold. And here is the mercy of God. He doesn't cancel the promise. He doesn't shame them. He returns. God comes back with clarity. He reaffirms his word. He says, in effect, no, Sarah will have the son I promised. And that matters because it tells us something. God's faithfulness is not fragile. His promises are not dependent on your perfect performance. His plan is not threatened by your moment of fear. He is steady. And then Scripture gives us one of the most human moments in the whole story. Sarah laughs, not because it's funny, because it's hard to believe hope again after you've waited so long. It's the laugh of someone saying, "Are you serious? Now?" And God doesn't crush her. He doesn't shame her. He stays. He keeps speaking. He keeps holding the promise steady until her heart can catch up. And then Isaac comes. The promised son arrives, and the story stands as a witness. The delay wasn't denial, the silence wasn't absence, and the promise was never hanging on their ability to hold it perfectly. Now, let's talk about what this looks like in real life, but I'm going to tell it from inside the story because it's easy to read Abraham and Sarah and think, I would never do that. But waiting changes you. Waiting presses on you. Waiting reveals what you believe about control, about outcomes, about safety. So let me talk to you from the inside. I'm Sarah, and I love God. I honor God. I'm not trying to rebel. I'm trying to breathe while nothing changes. I'm trying to be okay while the promise stays out of reach. And at some point, the ache of waiting becomes loud, not in my mouth, in my body, in my sleep, in my thoughts, in the way I brace for the future. So I start to plan, not because I don't believe, but because I don't know how to rest with an open ending. And that's when God shows me the truth. I have been carrying something that belongs to Him. I have been staying on duty as if my vigilance can protect the promise, as if my managing can produce what He said He would give. And then I hear the invitation, not condemnation, invitation. You are not the backup plan. If we're not the backup plan, we're the ones who follow His lead, one step at a time, then rest while He carries the outcome. You don't have to keep the engine running. You don't have to be on night shift. You can trust me to resolve what you can't control. You can trust me to finish what I started. And here is what that looks like in real life. It looks like speaking truth to the part of you that braces. It looks like answering worry with Scripture, not as a slogan, but as a hand on your chest, as a settling of the soul, as a refusal to carry the outcome like it depends on you. Because there's a difference between telling God you're anxious and letting God take the weight. That's why these verses matter. Casting all your care upon Him, for He cares for you. Cast your burden on the Lord, and He shall sustain you. Because God is not asking you to pretend you don't have cares. He's asking you to stop carrying them alone. So let this be the declaration. I'm not the backup plan. God is in control. And here is the prayer for the nights when the engine won't shut off. Father, I'm trusting you to bring peace and resolution to what I've been carrying. I'm not the backup plan. You care for me. 1 Peter 5:7. You will sustain me. Psalm 53:22. I rest. So here's the question I want to leave you with. Where has waiting tempted you to start managing what God promised? And what truth has God been teaching you to speak when worry tries to take the night shift? And if this message connects with you, comment, not the backup plan, not as a performance, as a concession, a return, a release. Because the promise isn't safer when you grip it harder. The promise is safe because God is faithful. Abraham and Sarah, Isaac, the moment we realize we're not the backup plan.